All right. Hello, everyone. It is March 7th and it is 3:03, and I'm calling this meeting of the Wakefield Youth Council into order. All right. Next on the agenda is our attendance. So I'm going to go down the roll. James.
Here.
Nathaniel. Annabeth.
Here.
Thomas. William said he would be absent. Michaela.
Here.
Ahmed.
Here.
Let's said she would be absent. Maya.
Here.
Sophia.
Here.
Juliana said she'd be absent, as well as Olivia. Vanessa.
Here.
And Erin said she would be absent. Okay. So next is public comment. Are there any members of the public that would wish to speak? Seeing none. Next on our agenda is the February 7th meeting minutes from our last meeting. Thomas isn't here, and I don't have those minutes with me now. So if he comes later, we can move that agenda item back.
Okay. Yeah.
Otherwise, we can vote on that at the next meeting. So moving on, next is a Pledge of Allegiance protocol. So we have been approached by a member of the public that asked if we would adopt a protocol in which we would begin each meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. And this would put us more in line with school committee and town council, which also has this protocol. So does anyone have anything that they would like to say on this before I motion to vote on this? Any discussion? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adopt a Pledge of Allegiance protocol at the beginning of each of our meetings?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
A second.
I'm going to call down the roll. Say yay or nay. James.
Yeah.
Nathaniel.
Yes.
Annabeth.
Yay.
Myself, yes. Michaela.
Yes.
Ahmed.
Yeah.
Maya.
Yes.
Sophia.
Yes.
And Vanessa.
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. So with that, would we like to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance up there? Oh, okay, fantastic. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Next on our agenda is the Galvin School Culture Survey. So Mr. Collins has done a lot of work to prepare this, and we saw the results of this at the panel and professional development day for the teachers back on Tuesday. So Mr. Collins, would you like to talk a little bit more about this and provide some context as to the results?
Yeah, so there was a lot of data to look at. The survey went out to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, as I think I mentioned at the last meeting, at the Galvin. And I got 584 responses out of 804 kids in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I printed out, I literally just printed out the slideshow that I went over. And I should have copies here. It's so long. There's a lot of information, so I figured it'd just be best to kind of print it out, let you guys kind of look through it. Just a little bit like general, kind of like what I did. So there was 50 multiple choice questions, if you will, where students could say mostly true, always true, mostly untrue, or never true, based on the situation scenario that was asked. And then that was taken straight from the DESE survey. And then I added in 3 open-ended questions based on kind of the conversations that we had at the council. So I asked for students to describe GMS's school culture, to identify the 3 most important traits when looking for a trusted adult, and then 3 suggestions for improving the Galvin moving forward. So I tried my best to take all of the kind of rating scale questions and categorize them into academic life, student voice, student community, teacher support, diversity, and resources. And just kind of show some of the pie charts that I think illustrate some of, the kind of main points in that category. My biggest takeaways, like I said, I'm not going to go through it all. Ali was there for the presentation. It was like an hour and 15 minutes, so I'm not gonna I'm not gonna do all that. But just some of my biggest takeaways, I think, was looking at the academic life one. There was 42% of Galvin students said they're mostly true or always true in terms of their classmates not behaving. So that kind of jumped out at me that there's a big population of students who feel as if their peers are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that's having an impact on their kind of day-to-day, which jumped out at me originally. And then as I looked more at the data going forward, I felt like it was affirmed by some of the responses that students were saying. Another kind of big one that jumped out at me when looking at kind of the student community section was that there was definitely a large segment that feels like bullying is a problem. And if you look at kind of all of the pie charts in that section, there was a majority, like it was pretty much 30 to 40% voting or answering that they're seeing bullying. Kids aren't helping people when they seem to be upset. People are being called names more than once. And actually, one of the staff members at the PD said, I wonder if it's that same 30 to 40% that's voting that way for all of these questions. And it's that same group of people that feel as if bullying is a problem because they are the kind of subject or victims of it. And then another one of the things that I kind of jumped out at me, and I'm not just saying this because I guess I'm a little biased, but some of the most positive results that I found were that Galvin students are reporting that their teachers are available when they need to talk. Their teachers address things or do something to help when bullying's happening, that teachers are willing to help students when they come to class upset, that generally some of the most positive results were feeling as if their teachers kind of had their back or supported them when they sought that help out, which I thought was something important to note. And then another big thing when I was looking through it was the resources one. There was a pretty big segment who voted that they weren't comfortable reaching out to teachers or counselors for emotional support. And I just kind of wondered in looking at that, is it a comfort level? Is it just a lack of, I know, again, I thought back to the conversations we had, a lack of knowledge of what resources are there for kids. Some of the people in the open-ended response said, like, there's not enough guidance counselors, like it's hard to get an appointment. So I wonder sometimes if it's comfort or sometimes if it's knowledge or like access to that support or knowing how to access that support. And then looking at the open-ended, the biggest things, and it was great to have kind of Ali there too to talk through some of these as I was talking about them to the staff, was for the identifying traits about trusted adults. I did like one of those word cloud things. And if you look, IDK and don't and know are featured, not the biggest, but they're in that word cloud, and in pretty big size font. So it's clear to me that there's definitely a disconnect. We're talking a lot about trusted adults, but I don't know that every student or a big segment of students knows what a trusted adult means, which then in turn makes it difficult to form those types of relationships. Another big thing that came from students describing the school culture was very interesting for me, that students were talking about bullying in a way that I don't think bullying is viewed. In numerous responses, they were talking about how like bullying at the Galvin isn't necessarily on the basis of like true hatred or targeting someone's ethnicity or race or sexual orientation, but more just like kind of like the social order, that there's like popular kids and not popular kids. And it's more of like a subtle type of bullying. That a few kids had remarked that it was more like, wasn't necessarily meant to be mean, but it wasn't really a nice comment and it was kind of under the radar. So it's harder for teachers and staff to maybe pick up on it versus like if someone's being harassed or antagonized, it's easy to see it, address it, follow up with it, whereas it's a little bit harder where it's a look or it's a comment that maybe is kind of a little bit more subtle. And then the final thing was just the suggestions that students had given me. And the thing that jumped out at me the most, and I tried to organize them in base with regard to the frequency that I got them. Again, I was sifting through 584 responses. But the one most prominent suggestion that I got time and time again was there needs to be more punishments and more enforcement of rules. And the thing that really jumped out to me at that, connecting back to at the beginning, students feeling as if kids aren't behaving in their classes. And I feel like this is something that staff has talked a lot about, and now seeing kids talk a lot about it, and offering that as a suggestion. I just thought it was super interesting that in a lot of these results, it seemed that from what I've been hearing at the staff at the Galvin and now students at the Galvin are kind of aligned in some of the things that they are detecting as issues. So for me, my kind of next steps or moving forward, I know I'm going to get some more feedback tomorrow about how the staff received the session. But just preliminary conversations I've had with some staff, they really were saying like, do you have plans to share this data and information with administration at the Galvin? And I actually got an email from Miss Webb asking if this information could be shared with administration as well. And I think it would be best if it would, again, could kind of be like a partnership where there's maybe some students there to kind of share out this data and talk maybe a little bit more about it. Because I think ultimately, I think it's the most meaningful coming from you guys and students. Not that it's not meaningful coming from adults, but I definitely think kids talking about their experiences in school carries a little bit more weight to it. So I think as we look to the future, if that would be a possibility, to maybe get some kids to help kind of present, and it doesn't need to be a legit presentation. I think it'd be a little bit more of a conversation with Miss Webb and potentially Miss Tetrout and Miss Bailey, just to kind of share this out. And
yeah, I definitely,
I just said a lot. So
no, this is all great. And I think that the information collected here really demonstrates like what we're trying to get after with this initiative. And I think that having a discussion with administration would be a great next step to kind of discuss what needs to be done and to kind of address some of these points that we're discussing, like the bullying policy. I found that as something very interesting, especially like the difference between like 75% of students saying that people generally respect each other, but then a majority, or at least a large minority of students saying that bullying is still very prevalent. So I found that kind of very interesting, and kind of, as to you said, like the subtleness of it and like how bullying has become more coded, kind of fly under the radar, how kind of those policies need to be updated to kind of reflect those changes and like different measures of changing the school culture to make that less likely to happen, to be instituted. And I think overall, this was a lot of great work that we can take and run with. So
I like the fact that you had a student panel, so the student voice, and that was something that came out of the youth council. What do you think having the student voice added to the conversation?
I think that it was really beneficial because they corroborated a lot of these points, even with like, it was interesting, as you said, with the need for more rules and more enforcement, because that's something that like you would typically think that kids are against, like more rules. But the fact that most students did find that necessary was really interesting, was eye-opening for a lot of the teachers there too.
I know for me, it was super important to have the student voice there because I know at the beginning of the year, we had like a student panel at like the kind of district welcome. And that was one of the most like mentioned thing from staff that was, one of the best things that we've done, because I just think, I don't know, looking at pie charts is helpful to a certain degree, but also kind of hearing it from people that are living through it. I think it carries more weight and it's more like memorable, and you think about it a little bit more after the fact.
Especially when you have those examples, like you
Yes.
said, you know, when you have students, those examples. Does anyone have any questions?
This was more of a comment, but I think what was I also saw in here was that it said that admin could play a bigger role and even have them substitute classes. So I think if there's any pushback on, like, enforcing the rules or maybe increasing or making or creating more clarity surrounding the punishments, that could go into play, maybe having them substitute or having them watch classes. But especially if there's pushback from the community for whatever reason, if you could translate that into maybe having parents substitute not their children's class, maybe different classes, or like, coming in alongside admin to kind of see the issue at its root. Only if that's an issue, though.
I just have a question. Sorry. Is this like I wonder if this survey could be taken to the high school to possibly survey high school students on?
I know that was mentioned and discussed, but I think there was a few more obstacles to get through with rolling it out at the high school. Because I know there were some email chains and threads, so I think it might happen down the line. But I know this was kind of, I think, the start, and I think maybe if some positivity comes out of this from the middle school, that maybe it's more reason to kind of bring it up to the high school too.
What's nice, what's nice too that Mr. Collins mentioned, this is a tool that was developed by the Department of Education. So it's not like something, and then he layered on the questions that came up during the youth council discussion over and over again. So it was a nice balance between, what we're looking for educationally to create a positive learning culture, and then what you all said. So this is great.
Yes. And something else that I found very interesting was the point about guidance counselors and school counselors as well. Kind of like the same things that we were able to identify at the high school are still very prevalent at the Galvin too, across the board, with kind of accessibility and misperceptions on how to actually access guidance counselors. So I think that that's another point that is kind of level with both schools. So I think that that's definitely room for us to work into.
Great. So just to reiterate, this is kind of the starting point. The conversation back in November was the starting point. This is the next step, getting that data. And then the next step is supporting Mr. Collins and the team at the Galvin as they move forward, and anything else that the youth council can do. So thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Are there any other questions on the Galvin School Culture Survey? Thank you, Mr. Collins, for all of this work. Continuing with the school culture work that we've been doing, I wanted to provide a brief update on the work that me and Catherine have been doing with the school support system at the high school. We're in communication with Mr. Robinson to work with guidance counselors to increase awareness from our previous discussion with the school adjustment counselors, kind of where they explained to us the tiered system of how guidance counselors and school adjustment counselors work, and kind of increasing the awareness that guidance counselors are that access point for accessing social emotional support and also academic and college support. So beyond that too. So I want to.
Yeah, that was a great discussion, and Ali sent a fabulous email to Mr. Robinson. So we look forward to an update. Maybe we can have Mr. Robinson come to a youth council meeting.
Yes. Next on our agenda, Annabeth would like to give an update as to her liaison with the BB Library. So Annabeth.
Yeah. So I'm the liaison to the BB Library, and we're planning on sending out a survey to the students at the Galvin and I think maybe the high school too, in order to get some student feedback on how often they use the library, how they use it, and sort of what we can do to make the library better and like more widely used. And we're trying to figure out how to get this survey to like teachers who could put it into Google Classrooms or however you want to get it to the students. And right now we're thinking something along the lines of like getting it to Mr. T, who could either email it or get it to the teachers. But we're also wondering if you guys have any input.
I think that it would definitely be beneficial if you're looking to get input from the high school. I'm less so aware of the middle school process to get this stuff, but probably reaching out to administration with Miss McLeod or the assistant principals to see if they would send that out in an email, and then having a morning announcement series asking students to fill it out over a period of time. That might be beneficial.
I would
there's
just say, sorry.
Go ahead.
It's hard on Zoom to, obviously. Anyways, I would contact the assistant principals just because they have a lot, like less, like they have like specified like like jobs to do. So I would contact them and not the principal just because she has a lot of stuff. So I think contacting the assistant principals would be better with that. Okay, thank you.
I think it'd still be worth it though to maybe just CC her on the email, just in
Okay.
case they're all listening.
The other idea I had was Margaret Messier, who she's the coordinator of ELA for 5 through 12. So she might be able to help get the survey out through the English teachers because,
yeah.
and I think, and Diana Ho is another great contact at the high school because she coordinates the high school library.
Yeah, Miss
Okay.
Messier is definitely because she is
Right.
Galvin and the high school, so
Yeah.
she would be maybe a good point person that kind of does both, sees
Yeah.
both schools. So that is a good suggestion.
Yeah, she would be, I think she would be great. I can do an email introduction between you two.
That'd be great, thanks.
And who at the library are you working on this with?
Catherine
Catherine.
McDonald.
Okay, all right. So I'll CC Catherine too, but I'll do that.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
sounds great to go through that route specifically with Miss Messier and Miss Hope, definitely. Was there anything else with the library, or
Is the survey that you're gonna send out like already created, or are you still thinking of questions?
It's pretty much already created. I don't know if it's like finalized yet. If you guys want to add any questions, I think I don't remember the exact questions we have, but it's I know that there's one about how you use the library, how easy it is to like find a space to hang out around the town, and like what you'd like to see like change in the library.
does anyone have anything that they'd like to ask Annabeth? And I think that the process of this survey sounds definitely great, because I know that the library is definitely this community center. And I know that there have been like ebbs and flows with library usage. And I think that analyzing how often students use it and then using that information to kind of grow library usage among the town is definitely a great touch point.
So this will be for like all high school students?
I I think I might be wrong, but I think it's 7 through 12. So I think it would be for high schools.
Are there any other questions for Annabeth?
I think there's a raised hand also.
Yeah, Nathaniel.
Yeah, so I think last year the library did this youth writing showcase where some middle and high schoolers were able to write books for the library. And then also last year I did a creative writing club. So maybe like a potential question would be like, what do you think of having some of those library programs be incorporated with after school clubs, or maybe like merge some of those writing and book themed after school clubs with the library?
Great
Yeah,
idea.
like
That's a good
program
idea.
suggestion. I think that's a great idea.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I just want to like kind of build off of Nathaniel's suggestion. Um, Maybe you could like ask like if you were to go to one of the library clubs, what times would you be available, and like list like a range or something.
Yeah. I think that's a good question. Thank you.
If there's no more questions, first of all, thank you, Annabeth, and we look forward to hearing back more on this. We're excited to hear about any future updates that you have with this survey. So next, are there any other liaison updates that anyone would like to share? Yeah,
Yeah. So I liaison for the school committee, and I was I think I believe it's Miss Lehman who organizes like all the different aspects of the town coming in and like giving presentations about what they've been doing. And I know I've been giving like small updates about youth council, but I was wondering if like maybe even a month from now we can just do like a big presentation to the school committee about what we've been doing in more detail. Maybe include like all the liaisons and what each liaison's been up to. And obviously I attend those meetings and Vanessa's normally there too. So we can even give like a 10-15 minute presentation about, more in depth what the youth council's been doing. If we think that it's a good idea.
Yeah, we have typically in the past done a larger presentation for the school committee towards like the springtime as like we are engaged with like kind of like towards the end product a lot of the stuff that we've been doing during each term. I think that would be a great thing to have more youth council members join a discussion like that for a presentation. I think that's definitely a great idea to have.
I think too, it's this year it's new that we have Mr. Collins, so we have a more defined connection with the schools, and civics projects are coming up and things like that. So we could, make it so that, we have Mr. Collins there and they can ask questions too. But I think that's a fabulous idea, especially with some of the points that were just presented.
Yeah, thank you. Does anyone else have any liaison updates that they'd like to share?
Oh.
Yeah, Nathaniel.
So for the ESC, I sent out a survey for interest in the recycling club at the Galvin, and we should be having our first meeting on March 14th, next week. So yeah, once I'll have more information on what happens then, but yeah, we have a selected date and we have a selected group of people who, we're going to have our first meeting with that group of people.
Yeah, thank you, Nathaniel, for sharing. That's very exciting to see all that work that you put in for this recycling club at the Galvin to tackle this issue. It's definitely great to see that it's come to fruition. So we're excited to hear more about everything that you're doing with the ESC and the recycling club at the Galvin. Thank you. Does anyone else have any liaison updates or any questions for anyone that's shared anything?
She's not here, but Juliana did present or did speak at the last town council meeting on, she's a liaison with the Safe Routes to School and bike and pedestrian safety. And she made comments on her support of the bicycle and pedestrian plan for the town. So I just want to recognize Juliana's commitment to that work and everything that she's done around that liaison role.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us. Does anyone else have any liaison updates that they would like to share? All right. Seeing none. Next on the agenda is a communications and outreach subcommittee update. So first of all, I would like to go into a little bit more logistical stuff with this first. So Madeline, who's the current chair of the Communications Outreach Subcommittee, is temporarily stepping back from her role, but will be returning in the coming weeks. She let me know that she will be returning, I think, the start of April or mid to end of April sometime. And we believed, me and Catherine discussed this, it would be good to have an interim chair to run at least a couple meetings while during this time. So I talked with Maya as an individual who would be interested in taking on this role, given her involvement with the subcommittee. And so I wanted to take this time to nominate an interim chair until Madeline returns. So does anyone have any questions? So so do we motion, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
So I motion to open nominations for an interim chair of the Communications and Outreach Subcommittee until Chair Madeline Naper returns. I move to nominate Maya Palick for this role. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right. Maya, do you accept this nomination?
I do accept. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none. Maya, would you like to say anything before we vote?
I would just like to say that again, like, thank you so much for offering me this position. And I'm really excited to see, even though it's temporarily, see what I can do with the running the meetings and kind of doing a little bit more. So thank you so much for the opportunity again.
Yeah, definitely. We're happy to see you take on this role, hopefully. And so with that, now I will call down the roll to approve this. So please say yay or nay to vote in Maya Palick as the interim chair of the Communications and Outreach Subcommittee. So James,
Yay.
Nathaniel,
Yes.
Annabeth,
Yes.
myself, yes. Michaela,
Yes.
Ahmed,
Yay.
Maya,
Yes.
Sophia,
Yes.
and Vanessa.
Yes.
All right, so Maya, you are now the interim chair of the subcommittee, so thank you. And so hopefully, and I'll be in touch with you as to the logistics of this. Hopefully we can get a subcommittee set up, subcommittee meeting set up for either next week or the week after that. So that way we can kind of discuss the communications work that we've been working on. So with that, if there are no further comments on that specifically, I would like to share something that Vanessa worked very hard to do. So she was able to write our mid-year press release that is now in the daily item. So I have paper copies that Vanessa shared with me. So
You're in the item yet?
I don't think so. I
Oh.
I don't get it delivered to my house.
I haven't
so
seen
I
it yet,
don't
but
check for
hopefully
it.
in the next few days.
okay, so it's been sent to the item. Okay, perfect. Would anyone like paper copies?
Yeah.
Vanessa, would you like to say anything as to the press release or?
No, not really. I think it was definitely successful, like writing it. Felt very proud of our accomplishments so far throughout the year, and I'm excited to hopefully get the chance to write the end of the year one too.
Yeah, I really appreciate the work with this because having that spotlight as to the work that we do is really important to show the progress that we've made in the community. I think that we have done a lot of different stuff so far during this term, and I'm excited to see it continue. So it's definitely great to have this.
Yeah, I think it could also be helpful, like Ahmed was saying, like if we present to school committee or town council, like we could kind of look to this for what notable things we've done this term.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. And with that, one more thing that I would like to highlight with communications is just before this meeting, I was contacted by the Warrior Cleanup Crew that they're going to be holding their cleanup on April 27th and that they would like us to share with our social media accounts. So that's something that will hopefully be going up in the coming days, just as an update. So if there's no more communications related updates, I'm gonna move on to the Cultural Council grant project. So I know that Catherine and Vanessa have been working on this since the grant was approved last or in the last couple of months. So I know that you're working on this. I just wanted to know, were there any updates as to the progress you guys have been making with the grant project?
Yeah, so Catherine and I met with Karen Burke, who is the director of the senior center, and we kind of talked about dates and logistics and kind of like more just the ideas of what we want to do for this event. So we're gonna hold the event at the senior center on April 3rd, I believe, which is the half day. And we're hoping to reach out to like youth action team and get their support and some other like people like at school. And so we just have to like figure out who's going to be like the graphic designer. Like we might need a photographer there. We have to send out like flyers soon, and we were thinking about doing like a press release to have like a little blurb in the daily item, because the senior center does have a newsletter that gets printed out to all of their like members each month, but it's kind of difficult with the timing that it gets sent out and the timing of the event, since it is towards the beginning of the month. People might not get it in time. So we thought that having it in the paper could be really helpful. So we're definitely going to need some help for that quick turnaround since it's only in a few weeks.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great to have. I know that April 3rd is the date of junior prom, so I know that some juniors probably will be unable to attend the event, but still I know that we're all gonna work towards this, the planning towards this, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think one of the goals was to also involve elementary school students because it's an intergenerational, so we can,
Yeah,
we
I
were
think
talking
we
about
were
working
talking
with
about
Girl Scout
maybe.
troops, Boy Scout troops, other groups.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah.
I think we should definitely work on like the flyers and promotions so then we can send it out to other people. And we also talked about potentially doing like a sign up, like a Google form, just to get like an idea of how many people are there. And then the last thing that we kind of talked about in the meeting was potentially getting sponsors, because it could help like if we want like drinks or food, or if we do have it around lunchtime, like we'd probably need to supply that, or if we do it later on, then maybe just like snacky type things.
Yeah, I definitely think that those are great next steps. And yeah, I definitely keep all of us on the council posted with that, because just making sure that we're involved with this, so that we can provide all the help that we can to get this done as soon as possible. So thank you all for your work on this. It's definitely great to see this come to fruition after the many months of work on this. So it's definitely great to see this. Were there any other questions or comments on the Cultural Council grant project? All right. So next up, I have some comments on potential future youth open mic nights. So we received communication from a community member involved in previous town open mics that would like to share information with us if we were looking to host another open mic. So I know that we discussed this and with Sophia, who's liaison to the recreation department and kind of spearheaded the previous open mic night. And at our last meeting, we discussed this as something that we would like to continue. So potentially receiving more information from this individual would be a great next step as we potentially plan another open mic night sometime in the near future.
Okay, so what are the next steps with that? Will Sophia reach out to this individual?
Reach out.
Yeah.
Okay, and then obviously you can work with Dan on using the Albion Cultural Exchange, so that's great.
Yeah. Were there any other questions or comments on open mic nights?
I would involve Erin Caldo, who's on the,
Yeah.
she brought some friends and had some really good insight on it as well,
Yeah,
so.
So next on our agenda is the white ribbon ceremony. So this event will be held on March 14th at the BB Library. And I was reached out to by Amy C, who is one of the organizers or operators of the youth action team. And she reached out to me because they were looking for youth council members who would be interested in taking part in this event. And so the point of this event is to take the pledge to end violence against women and gender-based violence, which is a very important issue in our society that is significant. And I wanted to share out this information, and I included the flyer in my most recent email. And if you're interested in doing this, I definitely recommend it. Just to reach out to me or Catherine, just to let us know. And yeah, we're hoping to have a decent youth council presence there. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this? Okay. So next on our agenda are just general announcements. So I have a couple of volunteering announcements that people may be interested in. So tonight there is the International Women's Day event hosted by the Wakefield Human Rights Commission here at the high school. And I know that some people may be volunteering, and that volunteering will take place from 7 to 8:30. And just to reach out to Vanessa if you're interested in doing that. And it's definitely an important event for our community. So I recommend everyone to go. And also we have the Parent University event on Saturday from 10:30 to 11. We will have the youth council table there, and I will be there to help run that. If anyone else was interested in volunteering during that time, just to let myself or Catherine know so that we can work together with that. Did anyone have any questions as to those two volunteering events?
For the Women's Day event, if you guys are interested, like Elise said, make sure you let me know, because I'm gonna send an email to Sherry, who is the chair of who's going to come, or just to help her expect how many volunteers there's gonna be.
I'm actually on the committee too, so I'm gonna be coordinating all the youth volunteers. So if you do decide you want to volunteer, you can check in with me when you get there at 6:30.
And is this tonight?
Yes. Yeah, and the panel is wonderful. So I'm very excited, although we learned that. Oh, that would be great.
I have practice tonight for gymnastics, but I can always come.
Wonderful.
And did you say the start time for volunteering was 6:30?
6:30. If you get there between 6:30 and 6:45, I'll find you something to do. So we have we have different roles people can take.
Then what time is Parent University? And what's the framework for that?
Yeah, Parent University, we're running our table from 10:30 to 11 o'clock on Saturday, this Saturday.
Is that at the Galvin or?
Yes, that's at the Galvin. Yeah. If there's no other questions on that, just a couple other announcements were for financial literacy. I know that we have officially sent the letter to Senator Lewis, Senator Lewis's office, and have you received any update from his office as to that? Or yeah, okay. And I wanted to take this time to also ask if we should share that letter out with the community, like on our social media, or like as a letter in the press, or just to share the work that
yeah, sure.
If we're interested in doing that, just to showcase kind of the work that we're doing, and based on that discussion of financial literacy, kind of what we took away. So would we all generally be in favor of that, to showcase that on our social media? Yeah, that's something that Communications and Outreach Subcommittee will take care of, hopefully with as to that.
Okay, great. I mean, do you want to reach out to Senator Lewis's office? I can give you the email for just to see if they have any further questions. Yeah. Or okay.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. And if there are there any further comments or questions on anything that we've discussed as to that? So next on our agenda is the determination of the next meeting date. So the next half day is April 3rd, but as we've discussed, that is junior prom, and also we are having the cultural council grant event at that same time. So instead, we will likely have another after-school meeting sometime in April. Yeah, because there's no other half days, I don't believe. And so we'll be in touch to schedule that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know spring sports and activities
Yeah.
start up, so. You know, one option is to do a completely Zoom
Yeah.
evening meeting. I don't know, what do people think?
I think it might work out better.
Yeah, and we can send out a doodle poll too to see, like, to find the best time that we can reach for and have the most members join us.
Yeah, because spring does get busy,
Yeah.
so having a evening meeting would be great.
Okay, so as to that, is there any other business that anyone would like to bring up that we didn't previously mention or discuss? So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Oh,
I'm gonna call down. I'm gonna call down the roll. Say yay or nay. James,
Yay.
Nathaniel,
Yay.
Annabeth,
Yay.
myself, yay. Michaela,
yay.
Ahmed,
Yeah.
Maya,
Yay.
Sophia,
Yay.
and Vanessa.
Yay.
All right, thank you, everyone. This was definitely a great meeting, and I'm looking forward to our continued communication about next steps for our initiatives. Thank you, everyone.